Devices are everywhere, but what are you doing about it? This year's My World of Tomorrow conference and exhibition looks at IoT. We chatted to Matthew Blewett, Chief Innovation Officer at Business Connection, and asked him his opinion on it.
The Internet of Things is actually, people refer to it sort of as the next buzzword, and that's in technology. People used to talk about the cloud, and now it's more, the conversation is the Internet of Things. And really speaking, it couldn't be a simpler term in that it's talking about the fact that we're entering a new stage of connectivity, a new stage of devices that connect to the internet. Whereas that first phase, we were very familiar with a PC or a notebook computer connecting to the internet, and then we sort of got used to our tablets and mobile phones connecting to the internet. We're now moving into a rapid stage where more and more things are becoming connected and intelligent. You know, I always say there's two ways you can look at how you can best make use of a connected world with all these devices, machine to machine, talking to each other, more information being created. I mean, the one is a pure efficiency basis. In other words, as a business, because I'm digitizing more of a particular business process or the whole way in which my service is delivered, I can either make it more efficient. In other words, I can take out certain, unfortunately, inefficiencies, which often are human interfaces, or I can actually make it a better experience. I can make the experience better. So that's the one way. And the other way that it can impact businesses is by completely changing the way in which the process happens, or the business or the industry actually takes place. Because every business and every industry is there to serve an ultimate need. And connected devices may change the way we can serve that need to how we traditionally did it. The idea of what goes very closely with the discussion of the Internet of Things is that once you have all these things connected, they are actually generating data that we never even knew we needed in the past. We talk about big data, but what we're really talking about is the kind of tools and methodology to take this data, this massive data, and in various forms, and make sense of it. And I guess the where we want to end up with is what we call predictive analytics. Make sense of this data and be able to anticipate, as a result of that data, future events. And this leads into topics like artificial intelligence. So it really is a huge opportunity. It's a challenge, but if we can get it right, and where people have got it right, it's a huge opportunity. You have these mega data centers where a lot of the storage is happening. Now that's a good thing. As I say, there's a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing because you can then make sure you've got the levels of security, both physical and at a connectivity and encryption layer that perhaps you couldn't afford in smaller data centers. But on the negative, obviously all your eggs and a lot of data arrives in one place. And if that is broken, the results can be catastrophic. And we've seen examples of this where, for example, a cloud email system is suddenly, the security is broken, and then suddenly you haven't got a small problem, you've got a problem that's affecting a large population. The emphasis we're seeing at the moment is really saying we can't stop the fact that there's going to be all this data available, and a lot of private data is not going away. We can't stop the fact that it's going to end up in very, very concentrated places. So all we can do is make sure that we build bigger and higher walls to try and protect what ends up there, and it's going to be an interesting development as time goes on. In order for it to really become something that can be, easy to implement, easy to commercialize, the more standards you have, the more people can join in the process. I mean, that's why the standard of Internet Protocol is what drove internet working. There were many networks before. We just couldn't get them to talk to each other. So if you imagine that problem, you now got a problem of technologies that have grown up in their own world. So for example, you've got technology that was driven around manufacturing. You've got technology that was driven around motor vehicles, technology in the health sector. Now, what we're trying to do is connect them all via the internet and allow them to talk to each other in some way. Now, of course, they never operated on the same standards. So even in terms of how communication takes place. So a lot of work is being done, for example, the mobile network space through policies and protocols to try and create those standards. But it's difficult because you've got a lot of different interest groups who've already committed to a certain way, and of course there's got to be compromise for that to take place. So as that improves and as those standards get adopted and one begins to win or a few begin to win, so your ability to integrate more and more of these technologies will take place easier and easier. You need to really focus and take a step back and say, first of all, where are you going to place the Internet of Things topic on your strategic agenda? And I think part of the challenge is a lot of enterprises immediately think, well, we're going to place it under our CRO and our RCT policy. And that can be problematic because we're talking about, as I've already mentioned, technologies that go way beyond your traditional IT technologies. And really what you want to do as an enterprise is understand how those technologies can completely change your business process. So your business analyst, your business expert is fundamental. So what enterprises really need to do is to, I think, spend some time truly understanding what's going on and trying to understand which of the themes within the Internet of Things really could be applicable to their industry. And then to try and encourage innovation around those themes. Now, in a large enterprise, that can be very difficult because the focus there will probably be on how do we optimize an existing way of work, because it's very difficult for a large enterprise to disrupt itself. But for a smaller enterprise, it may well be the ability to enter into a new market or a new business as a disruptor, because they don't really play in that area. They can see how they can make use of devices in a new way to disrupt. So it really depends on the size of the organization, its culture, and whether it gives the Internet of Things and the related sort of technology or digital revolution we're going through the right attention.